If you don't like the world and you want to drive changes, don't wait for the experts to do it. The experts provide the tools, the experts provide the building blocks, but they may not have the motivation to drive those changes because, well, most experts are very well paid and comfortable where they are. So they don't necessarily have to drive change. The things very early in my life, when I was at university in the U.S. at an Ivy League school, and I was very proud of myself having made it into a leading university. I arrived at the school and very quickly, within 3 weeks, realized that not only was I definitely not the smartest student in my new class, I was probably pretty close to the bottom. How in the world can there be so many smart people? And they are not just smarter than me by little bits. They are on a different planet. They are so smart that even if I worked 3 lifetimes, I could not catch up. So one of the things I've always been thinking about is, how do I drive changes even when I'm not the smartest person in the room? So the idea I'd like to promote today is, it's a concept. It's not a real school. It's a conceptual school called the Fake Knowledge Academy. And in this school, just like in schools, we have curriculum that will teach students. And 70% of that content is going to be true. And 30% of that content, it's going to be false. Well, who determines what is true or false? It's the student's responsibility to figure out what is true and what is false, with some help from the faculty, but it's basically their own responsibility. I think it's important because what it illustrates is the importance of being able to stay skeptical, the ability to think critically, and the ability to unlearn, which I think is very, very underestimated in the study of innovation. There's always talk about how do we innovate, how do we learn more? And every university and every school in the world talks about learning more. I think there are very few places that talk about unlearning things. One of the things that has really been exciting is the emergence of crowdfunding. So traditionally there were, if I have an idea, I have a new idea and I want to create a product, I form a company and I have to go to venture capital to find the money. And this is a very hard process, right? It's constantly presenting an idea, being turned down and turned down and turned down. Finally, I get my money. Then I have to find customers. The crowdfunding scheme changes that. It combines the capital search and the customer search into one step, meaning you post your idea, your project on the web, and people who want to buy your product, they will fund you. So you found your investor and you found your customer in one step. Isn't that wonderful? These crowdfunding platforms have created a lot of new and interesting products, but not as many as would have been possible. Something like 80% of crowdfunding projects that are physical products don't make it to the market on time. In fact, many of them never make it to the market. And there's also some problems with this crowdfunding scheme, which is I have to disclose the idea to the public. This is a typical policy at a Fortune 500 company, okay, where the CEO tells his management team, I don't want to hear about this idea unless it has a potential TAM of $450 million or more. This sounds kind of harsh, but it is understandable if the company's $20 billion in size and the CEO, $450 million is 1/20th of his company, right? And that's the total market. If the total market is not even 1/20th of this company, he doesn't want to spend the time on it. But the problem is, who knows? How do you know ahead of time what the TAM is going to be, right? I think in marketing, we present it a lot of the time, but we have to admit it's just a guess. It's been said in 1943, Thomas Watson Sr., I think, the chairman of IBM, said, I think there is a market for about 5 computers in the whole world. Now, that sounds ridiculous now, and IBM has consistently tried to debunk this, saying Mr. Watson did not say this. It was said in 1981, Bill Gates actually said, 640K memory, that should be enough for anybody, right? And I think Microsoft has now come out and tried to put away this idea that no, he did not say this or it was taken out of context. But let me put it this way. It is reasonable for people in 1943 to say there's a world market of about 5 computers. It's reasonable for someone in 1981 to say 640K, that's a lot of memory. It's probably more than what anyone would ever need. I'd like to apply this to a particular problem. We go back to a crowdfunding scenario. You have an idea and you want to, you publicize it. You found the investors for it. You found the market for it. Okay, now you have to bring it into manufacturing. The problem with plastic injection is it is a process where they take these little pellets and they melt it. They put it in, it's put into this machine that heats it up to 180 degrees. At that temperature, the plastic melts and it becomes liquid. That liquid is then injected at high speed. It shoots into this cavity. You see the metal parts on the top. The plastic shoots through the cavities, and as it does so, it cools down and solidifies. Then the top lid, here the top lid and the bottom lid are lifted together, and you get your part. This is a very fast process. It's very fast. But the problem is many things could go wrong. What could go wrong? There are at least 20 different ways in which the process could go wrong. Because there's so many problems, restrictions are placed on what kind of shapes can be designed. There's a lot of wonderful designs which cannot be made because of the restrictions on this process. So what we did, we consulted the experts and we talked to the experts and we brought in processes related to 3D printing. Now, 3D printing is not one technology. There are 6 different technologies involved. I'm talking about plastics today because I think this is the area where the most progress has been made and therefore the most likely to change the industrial world. So what is it? It's a freely moving print head that places the plastic in the exact location that you specify. And so we're able to make shapes. I think the photographs are there. I have an actual one. It's one part. It's printed as one part. The shape on the left, this is the octopus. Okay, this is not 15 parts. This is not 15 or 20 parts assembled into a head and 8 legs. This is one print. This is one part. This is now what the technology enables. So many new shapes, many new objects can now be created. And there are many applications of this. What is possible in 3D printing is not only take an existing design, but you can redesign it to make it lighter. And lighter is good in many places. Parts that go into a motorcycle, lighter is better. Parts that go into an electric skateboard, lighter is better. Parts that go into a drone, lighter is better. Because on a mobility application, lighter means longer battery life, means a longer mobility range, or being able to carry more payload. And the weight reductions that have been enabled, these are some of the products that we've made. Some of them, the weight has been reduced 49%. So this is a very, very exciting time to be in manufacturing because so many things in the past that people told you, no, we can't make this, it's not possible, now are possible. And there's another advantage. Now, a small company is able to reach market faster. People will say, 3D printing is slow, injection molding is much faster. Yes, injection molding is faster, just like an airplane is faster. But in order to take that airplane, if you have to line up for 30 minutes at check-in and then go through another 30 minutes at security and then wait at the gate for another hour and then wait for another 15 minutes for the airplane to make its way to the runway, there's a lot of overhead. Which is why flying from San Francisco to Los Angeles by plane makes a lot of sense. But flying from San Francisco to San Jose, which is a 1-hour drive away, doesn't make sense because the airplane has a really long overhead. This is the problem with injection molding. The design mock-up phase of it is 2 months. So the whole process that we show here, 2 months for concept creation, to get the idea down, another 2 months for this mock-up sample to be created, and then another 3.5 months after that. Why is it another 3.5 months after that? because of the 20 problems that we listed, they will constantly come up. This process, it almost never comes out right the first time. It's very, very typical for manufacturer to go through 4 or even 5 or 6 iterations to get the product right. With 3D printing, 2 months for concept creation, and then each iteration, it's 2 weeks. This will show you that the conventional wisdom that, 3D printing is slow, it's expensive, the material's not slow enough, is true. It is true. So why are we doing it? Well, it's slow, but it's getting less slow every year. This is the graph that shows the increase in speed over the years. And we've just listed 3 of the 6 different technologies here. It's expensive, yes, but it's less expensive every single year. These are the curves that show the cost decrease. And the material properties, the dotted line shows different applications of requirements. And these bar charts, the 2 3D materials that we're using are the two on the left. Okay, and so the material tensile strength and the impact strength of these, is it good enough for everything? No, but it's good enough for increasingly large number of product applications, and those applications are increasing every single year. So, what really makes this industry exciting now is a lot of the possibilities that have happened. But I'd like to share with you a little bit why I'm talking about unlearning in the midst of all this learning. In order for us, this process took us about 9 years. And the way that it was done possible was, I'm the leader of the company, and I talked to the middle managers and asked them, you are experts in mechanical engineering. There's a new technology called 3D printing. Please make it possible. And please make it work. And some of them would tell me, Eugene, it's not possible. That's about a third of them. Okay. Now, most Taiwanese people are not very direct, and so the other 2/3 said, yes, boss, we'll do it. And then they pretended to do it. But having been in business for 20 years, I've learned how to tell the difference between people who are doing what I'm asking to do and people who are pretending to do what I ask them to do. So I quickly realized they were pretending. Then I brought them back and said, look, this is for real. This really is possible. And they would say, yes, but this is difficult. Plenty of reasons, plenty of excuses. And I think at different stages, those excuses really were valid reasons. But what I was trying to tell them is, yes, it's not possible now, but how about 12 months later? How about 18 months later? Let's be ready when the rest of the supply chain has improved, has innovated, has broken through. So in the end, what I had to do was I skipped a whole generation of middle managers, most of them in their 40s and early 50s. I went to the guys that were 28, 30, 31 years old and told them, look, you see those managers there? You get this 3D printing, work on this 3D printing technology, do the best you can. If you can get it to work, you're the new manager. I had to skip this whole generation of managers, and a whole generation of expertise had to be bypassed. This was actually kind of painful and not necessary. And this whole process taught me that some of the biggest drivers of innovation are experts, but also some of the biggest obstacles to innovation, unfortunately, are also experts. Why is that? Well, part of it is because the experts have more experience, of course, and they have more expertise, but it's very difficult for them to unlearn. And the reason unlearning is difficult is because it's painful, it's disruptive, it's agonizing. And there are 10 other talks on unlearning at TEDx, and most of them describe it as a really, really painful process that we have to do towards middle age as we reach the tail end of our careers, and we need to unlearn things that make us very painful. But I've realized it really doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be if we look at education as training a detective, someone who's capable of dealing with knowledge, dealing with fallacies, dealing with skewed data, and dealing with just plain fake news. A lot of the expertise is knowing what doesn't work. It's knowing what's not possible. And I think, a lot of experts, they acquire the expertise through after undergoing a great deal of pain and suffering. And so because of that, it's hard to let go of it. So this is like, imagine in the Middle Ages, there's a swordsman. He's an expert. He's the best swordsman in the kingdom. And we go and we show him a gun and say, look, here's a new way to fight. Isn't this great? What would they say? I think out of 100 of these expert swordsmen, one of them maybe would say, oh, this is a marvelous idea. The other 99 will say, that's not how real men fight. Because they cannot accept the fact that there is another way that works that is entirely independent of what they've learned in the past. So school often is represented as, well, I'm a student and I go to many teachers and the teachers teach me truths. Right? And I think this is because some of the great universities in the West were started as seminaries. So they were educating priests, right? So they're learning about the Bible. So of course it's the truth. But universities today don't just teach the Bible and the Quran. They teach many other things. And most of those things are not truths. They're tools. They're just tools. And if a tool works in one context and it doesn't work in another context, that's okay. It's just a tool. Okay? I have a hammer. It's excellent for hammering nails. Well, now there's a screw. Well, the hammer doesn't work so well. I need a screwdriver. There's no problem. You just need a different tool, right? And so the tools should be something that we are able to let go or at least put aside. Okay? So going back to the Faith Knowledge Academy, the detective's education is something that we deal with. We learn knowledge knowing that it's not perfect. We are given expertise knowing that it's not complete and knowing that it will become obsolete at some point and it will need to be updated. It will need to be changed or maybe even put aside entirely, right? But that is what would equip a student to be able to deal with fallacies, to deal with skewed data, to deal with fake news. And what is all this? Well, basically, this is the real world. Thank you very much.